Hope you guys are having a fantastic Saturday. I'm just visiting my daughter and her husband in Phoenix, Arizona. So I thought I would do a quick little live and just see how you guys are doing, and perhaps share my thoughts as I'm reading the book of Genesis. Genesis is actually one of my favorite books. There's so much stuff going on in the book of Genesis. It is crazy. We get basically the history of mankind, and I love it. But one thing that caught my attention this morning was when I was reading Genesis 10, and that is, of course, the Table of Nations after the flood. So we have a great cataclysmic flood. And then afterwards, we have Noah and his sons leaving the ark, Ham, Shem, and Japheth. And then we get this spreading of tribes and nations beginning to spread out. They're moving towards different parts, obviously, towards Europe, towards Asia, towards Africa. And what's interesting is you get this huge tower that is in the process of being erected so that people can come together after the flood. And if you read, I think it's either in the book of Jared or the book of Jubilees, you'll see that one of the reasons, and this is legend, of course, is because the people were afraid that they were going to get wiped out again by a flood. So they began to build this tower so that they wanted to get it high enough that they could either invade heaven itself, or two, to be able to protect themselves from a future flood. So whether that means storing all their data, all their information, all their historical records that they can pass on to the next generation, we don't know. We don't know. It's just kind of, it's almost, because a lot of that information was lost, we only have a few records that are scattered all over the planet based on a flood timeline or a pre-flood timeline. This is why you get, if you go into North America, we were flying over the canyon, and that is massive. You can't help but look at the Great Canyon, the Grand Canyon, and see that looks like a massive flood created that whole area. You can't help but see it, especially from 30,000 feet. You can't help but see that. What else we got going on here? Oh, in Genesis 25, we see this gentleman by the name of Peleg, and at that time the earth was divided. And I'm like, oh, that's kind of interesting. And sometimes when we think of division of land, sometimes we think of left and right. Then I thought, well, what happens if you change that idea and say that this was up and down, north and south, meaning a certain percentage of the earth actually went below the earth above it. So now you have subterranean peoples, groups, living under the earth. Now, again, I can't prove this. I can't prove it, but just the way the wording is in Genesis chapter 10, it could be that there were a group of people. When we're talking about tectonic shifting of plates and all kinds of crazy stuff after the flood, we could be talking entire generations of people actually going underneath the earth and living. Then you start thinking, was you start thinking about Atlantis and all these mythological cities that are subterranean. meaning they're under the earth, they're under the oceans. And we know scientifically today that there are many regions of the sea that are unmapped, uncharted, unknown. We don't know what's going on in certain portions because it's too deep. We also know that there are portions in Antarctica that are off limits. Like, you cannot go or fly anywhere below the 60th degree parallel on Earth. You can't do it unless you get licensees, unless you book tours, and even then you're just on the outskirts. Because again, scientifically, if you were to show up in Antarctica at the coldest regions, the coldest months of the year, it's almost impossible to live on 99% of Antarctica. You can only live on 1%, which is the outer skirts of islands where they have these little bases. But if you want to take a tour, and I think it's like $100,000 a pop to get into Antarctica to take a tour of the South Pole. Now, the South Pole is not the real South Pole when you go on a tour. It's actually a representation of the South Pole, meaning they only go about 1,000 miles in. And that's as close as they can get to the real South Pole. And all the trips are return trips, meaning you don't go to the literal South Pole and then you keep going to the other side, because that would make the most logical sense to do it. But scientifically, you cannot make the trek because your equipment will break down, whatever it is. So what they do is they trek you out 1,000 miles, and then they have a place that's called the South Pole, and they say this is the legit South Pole, but it's not. It's not the true South Pole because they can't get to it, not with ordinary people like you or me. So they have to make a tour saying this is the South Pole, take your pictures, go around this pole and pose with your friends, whatever it is, but we got to get going because we got to make the trek back to our base camp. And you can look this stuff up for yourself. I'm not making this stuff up. You can go research and do a deep dive on Antarctica, and it's gonna leave you a little crazy because you're like, oh, so we've never been to the South Pole? That is correct. Oh, so we can't fly over Antarctica? That is correct. You're not allowed. You're not allowed. Why? Because if you crash in Antarctica, there's nobody going to be able to rescue you. Can't do it. Unless you crash on the base, on the outskirts, like where Drake's Passage is, somewhere there. It's even difficult to get there from, where is it? South America? Where is the place where they go? Is it Argentina? Basically, cut across Drake's Passage, and that is the closest that you can get to Antarctica if you can make it across with these cruise ships or tour ships, all this kind of stuff. Once you get past there, now you can go to the base camp, you can book your tours, all this kind of stuff. No problem, you can do that. But what I'm telling you is they're not actually taking you to the South Pole. Why? It's too dang cold. You can't do it. And this is them. You go to their tourist articles, all this kind of stuff, they will tell you they're not taking you to true south. It's impossible. It's impossible. It's too dangerous. The trek is too hard, all this kind of stuff. So they made a fake South Pole for you so that you can pretend that you've actually been to the bottom of the world. That's what they do. That's your tour. So you pay a $100,000 plus American, you can go to the pretend South Pole, but you're not actually going to the real South Pole. And again, this is not me making this stuff up. This is the people that are actually taking people on tours to the South Pole. So you might argue and say, Shane, I have friends that have been to the South Pole. And I'm like, yes, but it's not the real South Pole. It's the South Pole tourism industry. That's where they take you. They take you to a false South Pole. Why? It's for your own protection. Don't you know? You don't want to get frozen to death. And think about it logically. Why don't they just continue the trek to the other side, jump in a ship, and then go around Antarctica and then come back? Why? Well, you can't. There's like 80 plus thousand kilometers of ice shelves that you can't get to. So you have to go at certain ports. You just have to go there by tourism. And if you're not a scientist, good luck. Good luck trying to explore Antarctica on your own. You can't do it. You always have to have somebody there to protect you, to be with you. And you have to prove that you're doing scientific studies. You can't use skidoos. You can't use all kinds of stuff. You can't do that. So the reason why I mention this is there could be a whole lot more land unexplored that we don't even know because you can't get to it. And it's tons of snow. Like, we're talking kilometers deep, like at least what are we talking? At least a kilometer, 2 kilometers deep of ice, just when you get to the Arctic shelves. And then you got, what is it, like 200 plus meters of shelf that you have to climb onto, and then you get to explore. Well, they're not going to let you do that. You got to land at the base, and you got to take their tours. So the whole reason why I bring this up in Genesis 25 is because of Peleg, the earth divided. And we just think, oh, that's interesting. It's divided left and right, east and west, north and south. But it could actually be subterranean, meaning a whole shift of islands actually went underneath, below the earth. So, and there's all kinds of historical evidence for this. There's all kinds of myths talking about Atlanteans and all kinds of stuff. So some of it might be true and some of it might be far-fetched. Don't know. But it's kind of a mystery when you approach Genesis and you see the Isles of the Gentiles and all this kind of stuff all the way back to Genesis 10. And these Isles of the Gentiles are actually descendants of Japheth, Magog, all this kind of stuff. Like when you look at the steppes of, the steppes of Asia, this is where basically this group of people from Japheth actually migrated to the steppes going into Asia. So like 5,000 plus miles of fertile land, nomadic land, where it's dry, it's hot, it's cold, it's frigid air, all kinds of stuff. This is where you get these nomadic tribes living. They have sheep, they have herds, all kinds of stuff, all living in this whole area. Arguably Ukraine and Russia and all that kind of stuff. That goes all the way up to the East Asia. So anyways, it's kind of interesting. Like, I know there's more to it than just when you read one sentence and you're like, oh, okay. And you just flip through and you just keep going. Lots of stuff going on. Lots of stuff going on there. So yeah, I am in Phoenix, Arizona, taking in the sights because I'm visiting my daughter and her husband and our grandson. We wanted to see our grandson, hang out, visit. And the nice thing about being able to visit a place like this is obviously you can work from wherever, and you can also do YouTube videos from wherever. So I want to encourage you guys tomorrow night, because sometimes my internet is a little bit sketchy. Once things get going here, this is early in the morning right now, it's like 8 o'clock in the morning. It's easier for someone to help me out on that because I just have my phone and I could be busy. So Gary Gates is actually helping out tomorrow night with Rev 5. So we're going to be having a few panelists as well. And so I hope you'll support Gary as well on my channel by making sure you subscribe to my channel. Join in on the conversation tomorrow at 3:30 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. So I guess that would be 5:30 Eastern. And should be fun. Who knows, maybe I might try and pop on, but again, because the internet is a little bit sketchy, I don't want to interfere with that. What's amazing is Gary does such a great job, is usually when I'm not on, you get more panelists, more people on, more views, more subscribers, all that kind of stuff. So he does such a wonderful job, and I can listen to Gary all day and all night. Like, he has an amazing voice. He's an author of several books as well. I think he's actually working on a book as well. So give him your love by watching the live stream tomorrow, subscribing. Make sure you're subscribing. Make sure you're clicking on all the notification bells. Make sure that anytime we upload a video, you'll be notified. Make sure and share the video, comment, all that kind of stuff. And then from time to time, I need you to check the idea, or check your subscription as well, because what happens is YouTube will go through its algorithm chambers, if you will, and will periodically unsubscribe people from people's channels. So one of the reasons that I found out, and this isn't always conspiracy stuff, one of the reasons one of the things that I feel is happening is sometimes people will have a YouTube channel themselves, but they don't necessarily upload videos. But that doesn't matter. That's okay. You don't have to upload videos. But they may not have a playlist. Again, that's not a problem. But what YouTube is looking for is people that actually not only comment, but people that actually click on the notification bell, so that they don't think that that person is a bot, a robot. So that's some of the things that could happen, where they go through your channel, and if you just watch only my videos on my channel and you don't go visit other channels and you don't comment or anything like that, they could think that you are a bot. So it's always good to watch other people's channels. Like, go watch Departure Heaven, watch Not So Random with Gary Gates, Pete Garcia's channel, Rev 310, Uptime Community Church, Amy Moosefeld's channel, Girl Who Loves Jesus, or go check out Ingrid's channel, which is, he calls us his friends. So go check out, mix it up a little bit. Make sure you click on that notification bell. And then again, that way YouTube does not think that you're just a bot because you're only on one channel. So those are some of the things. Now some people are thinking that I'm talking about a flat earth and all this kind of stuff when I'm talking about Genesis. What I'm saying is, there is a possibility that there is land that people are hiding from us. And because, like, I had Pete Garcia on my channel, and he said, dude, I'm a pilot, I've seen the curve, and you have to be above 30,000 feet to see it. So I'm like, okay, trust the pilots. The pilots say they've seen it. I've never seen the curve, and I was 30,000 plus feet on my plane. So I've never been to the moon. I can see the moon. You can use a telescope, all this kind of stuff. Don't get mad at me because I've never been to the moon, and I'm never going to go to Mars. Sorry, I am not booking a trip to Mars. I will never book a trip to Mars. Did you see the Starship blow up the other day? It actually blew up over my other sister, Lorene, who lives in Turks and Caicos. It actually blew up above her. They were in their house, and they heard a rumble, so then they all went outside and saw what was going on. They saw the after effects of it actually exploding, and they can just see the trickle of all the explosions. And she said she didn't take that video herself. It was her neighbor. So I had to correct that on there. It was actually her neighbor that actually took the footage, spectacular footage, but she took a picture just after, and you can see the flame still in the air. So I thought that's kind of interesting. But again, back to the flat earth and all that kind of stuff. Like, I'm anti-NASA. That's the first and foremost. I don't believe anything that they say. I don't believe. I'll stand up on a soapbox and say, I don't believe that we landed on the moon. That's where I kind of start my foundation. I know there's a firmament up there that is a structure that God himself said that he put the sun, the moon, the stars, and there's actually waters above the firmament, and there's waters below the firmament. And if you want to get mad at someone, get mad at Neil Tyson, because Neil deGrasse Tyson, the guy, the scientist that you guys love, says the universe is flat. And I will concur with Neil Tyson that the universe is flat, meaning the more spread out you are, if you go billions and billions and billions and billions of miles out in the universe, it gets flatter and flatter and flatter and flatter. So there you go. So go get mad at Neil Tyson. I'm not a scientist. I'm not a rocket surgeon. I just read the Bible. And on day 2, when I see a firmament, a structure being hammered out, and the stars are put in there afterwards, and the sun and the moon, that's what I believe. That's what I believe. I believe heaven is in there. Now, how thick is that firmament? Don't know. But I know there's waters below us, and I know there's more that the scientists, the so-called scientists, are they're hiding things from us. They're hiding all the giant bones, the giant fossils, all that are just riddled all over North America. Riddled. Why? Why are they hiding all this stuff? And it's kind of funny. I bought my grandson a toy, and basically it's these magnets of elephants, lions, a giraffe, and a crocodile. Okay, and the reason why I say they're magnets is you can actually remove their body parts. You can remove their legs, their tail, their head, and you can swap them around. You can take the giraffe's head and put it on a elephant's head, and then you can take the feet from the tiger and put it on the feet of where the feet were for the giraffe, and you can start mixing these up. So what I was doing was I was showing my grandson, hey, look, you can mix these animals up, you can start taking things apart and all this stuff, and then I would get him to try and match and build a giraffe. And when I mixed up the animals, you know what he said to me? 18 months, 19 months old. You know what he said to me? He went, "Dinosaurs." I'm like, you're 19 months old and you see me doing some DNA swapping? I'm mixing this head with this animal and the feet with this animal, with this crocodile, and you're telling me that's a dinosaur? All of a sudden you start thinking about the flood and what in the world were they doing before the flood with these animals that we call today as dinosaurs. I think they were tampering with DNA, mixing animals, splicing DNA with humans, because again, we're talking about billions of people before the flood. So it's interesting that my grandson goes, "Dinosaurs," when you mix a crocodile with a giraffe and all this kind of stuff. I'm like, yeah, those dinosaurs do look pretty weird, like they've been messed around with. And Jurassic Park even hints with that idea that man extracted DNA and started messing around with it, and that's why you see hints at a fallen world, all this kind of stuff, Jurassic World, all this Transformer movies, all this stuff. It's all subtle hints that tell you that before the flood, they were messing with DNA. They were messing. We know that angels came down, bred with women, basically kidnapped women, made them their wives, taught them knowledge, taught them how to build things, all kinds of stuff that they passed down to their children, and they begat giants, which we know today as Nephilim. And these Nephilim would actually eat each other, kill each other, all kinds of stuff, because they couldn't breed anymore. And when they get killed, their spirits would actually roam the earth, their leftovers, so they don't die. And the angels that actually fell, you can read this in the book of Enoch that they were actually captured and put in chains underground. I'm telling you, there's crazy stuff going on in the Bible that we can't even begin to process or put together. And if my whole takeaway here is they, scientists, the people that study this stuff, know more than they're letting on. When we're talking about UFOs, people always jump to aliens and all this from other planets and all that kind of stuff. That idea, that thought process really only started to happen about in the 1800s, early 19th century, where people start talking about the idea of landing on Mars, that there's aliens on Mars, all this stuff. They actually used to think that aliens lived on the moon. That's how crazy people were, right? So saying things like it's possible to go to the moon, it's possible to go to Mars because there's so many aliens there. And then people started writing all these science fiction novels, books, and then later movies about what if there was aliens. And as a Christian, I believe these are all demonic entities. These are all interdimensional entities, meaning fallen angels doing things that they're not supposed to be doing. Principalities, rulers of the air, of heaven, lower part of heaven, higher places. All that kind of stuff is going on. It's all above my pay grade, a lot of that stuff. But we know scientifically that there are creatures on Earth and there are buildings, physical structures on Earth that we have no idea how they got here. We have no idea. We have no idea how they're built. When you talk about, what is it called? Cyclonian design, like 100-ton plus stones that are just being moved around like nothing, you can't help but think that this was pre-flood stuff, like the giants were actually building these structures, because we can't even replicate it today. It's my whole point. My whole point. So there you go. Yeah, and the people that are stuck on flat and all that kind of stuff, you should be more concerned with the idea that they're hiding stuff from you. That's what your concern should be more focused on, is what aren't they telling us about Antarctica? What aren't they telling us about these dinosaur fossils, these giant bones? Why do they always, whenever they come across a giant bone that's like a human bone, but these bones are like, if you put them all together, they're like 20, 30 feet in height. Why do they hide that from us? Why don't they have open, what do you call it, monuments or whatever, saying, here's what we found. We found a giant that was like 30 feet. But no, instead what they'll do is they'll show you the bones of dinosaurs and say that's all that there was. Because once you start seeing that humans and dinosaurs live together, it's going to rock your world, and you're going to be like, wait, what? What is going on here? You mean there's actually evidence of giant bones, giant fossil bones of humans, Nephilim, if you will, mixed with these fossils of giant bones that have been ripped apart as well by animals, whatever it is, that there's something going on and it's all over the place? Then you start thinking, man, this sure looks like pre-flood stuff. And they're not making it easy for you and I to research this, because they're slowly erasing our history as well. And it's getting very difficult to just go on Wikipedia or go to articles, go to other websites, because anytime you question anything, they either shadow ban you or they ban your channel, they stop you from talking about it, or you get looked at as you're crazy because you're asking questions. So how people counter that when you start asking the tough questions is they start putting you down and start going off on crazy bunny trails without them doing their own due diligence. Because I'm telling you, once you start going down some of these rabbit holes, you're like, man, they're hiding so much from us. It's crazy. It's crazy. So anyways, hope you got something out of this morning. Hope you got something from this morning. And I encourage you to continue to have your devotion, continue to read the Bible, and do your due diligence, study the Word. And I'll see you guys in another video. Appreciate you guys a lot. And then don't forget to subscribe and watch Rev 5 tomorrow at 3:30 Eastern Standard Time. I'll see you guys in another video. Bye for now.